You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you may not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
Did you know Fast Growing Trees is America's largest and most trusted online nursery with thousands of trees and plants and over 2 million happy customers? Whether you're planting fruit trees, adding privacy, brightening things up with flowers, or bringing in houseplants, Fast Growing Trees has it all. Even better, they can help you find options that are right for your climate, your space, and lifestyle. Click Order Grow. Every plant arrives healthy with the Alive and Thrive guarantee straight to your door. So if you're ready to get planting, this is the moment. Right now, they have great deals on spring planting essentials, up to half off on select plants. And listeners to our show get 20% off their first purchase when using the code WWO at checkout. That's an additional 20% off. Better plants and better growing at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code WWO at checkout. Fastgrowingtrees.com, code WWO. Now's the perfect time to plant. Let's grow together. Use WWO to save today. Offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions apply. Go to growingfasttrees.com for details.
Spring is packed patios, parties, wedding weekends, and RK Zero Proof keeps you in the mix without the morning after regret. As the original Zero Proof Spirits brand, RK's Warm Molecule gives you that real deal burn of whiskey or tequila with none of the alcohol. 0 calories, 0 sugar, and a whole lot of freedom to enjoy the moment. Sip smarter this season at rkzeroproof.com. That's rkzeroproof.com.
Welcome to the Irish NFL Show in association with QuinBet and now part of the Believe Network. Well, a tribute to the intrepid crew of Artemis 2 and the NASA-style launch countdown. Let us note that we are now T-minus 10 days and counting from the 2026 draft in Pittsburgh. We'll be live for the first round in its entirety from the Arlington Hotel in Dublin. That kicks off at 1 a.m. Lord help us, no sleep for us. Conor, myself, Brian and Craig will be making his way over to join us on that evening. Brian O'Leary, Ciaran Boyle and Craig Ridgen with me now as we go through our latest destination on our tour around the NFL. We've been previewing the draft needs of each team division by division. That brings us now to the NFC East, where regular listeners and viewers will note that 3 of the 4 people on your screen right now are coming to you in stereophonic sound wherever you get your podcasts are Giants fans. So we will probably not spend more than 30 seconds each on the other teams and about 6 hours on the Giants, and I'll do my best to get through it. But you know, look, we all have our little peccadillos. We all have our teams on the Irish NFL Show, so you got to let the Giants guys have their day, just as they did on Radio Row. It was lovely to see all those smiling faces where they had a lengthy Giants cast at the table. But we start.
We couldn't get Pat Leonard available for this podcast, Conor. That's why we had to bring you back in for this.
Yeah, but we start, Brian, with the team that actually won the division and won a Super Bowl 2 years ago with the Giants' best player, the Philadelphia Eagles, who, after they traded for Dontavian Wicks, the Green Bay Packers wide receiver, now have 8 picks remaining. They did shift a pick to the Packers for the services of Dontavian Wicks. They have the number 23 selection in the first round. A lot of noise around, well, there's always a lot of noise around Philadelphia, not least made by Philadelphia Eagles fans, but a lot of noise in the offseason, even for their liking, and a lot of it not particularly positive in how Jalen Hurts is perceived within that organization. A lengthy ESPN hit piece basically saying Jalen Hurts too big for his boots, Jalen Hurts not calling the plays that he's been sent out on the field, not getting it right on the field. That's why there was such a lack of chemistry with the offense in general, and AJ Brown in particular, who may end up out the door now to satisfy Jalen Hurts, and it seems like there are people within the Philadelphia Eagles organization who aren't particularly happy about that. So it's an interesting backdrop for their draft.
It's a very interesting offseason story, Conor. I actually don't know whether it's getting the attention it deserves, because there's other aspects of NFL news that's gone off over the past week or two, with other alternatives going on, with AJ Brown potentially new home with the Patriots. That's another one that's been suggested. He's going to get traded there. But it is interesting dynamic because they go and trade for Wicks last Friday night, and I think they're giving away a 6 and a 7 or something thereabouts. And I know Ciaran, our Packers resident, said it was inevitable they were going to move one of the wide receivers. The Eagles make me nervous, Conor, because this for me looks like a really upward type of deal for them. I mean, they're giving away very little in return, and yet the upside for me with this player is really good. The Packers, we've seen over the last couple of years, they're interchanging with wide receivers, and Wicks will have a big game, and then one of the Dobbs will have a big game. But Wicks in his own right, for me, is still a player that can do damage, and I just don't understand where.
So they got rid of all of them. That's how good they are.
Yeah, no, but it's interesting. They just have enough. You'd probably delight with that, but they refresh and they continuously refresh it in Green Bay. But this is not a Green Bay podcast. It will steer clear of that. I like the move for them. I like the move, but I actually had, and I was doing notes for this one last week, and I was looking at wide receivers being interesting position if they were to go that now at 23. Are they really going to pick up the wide receiver which they want? But this deal could have made it a bit unusual because AJ Brown trade continues to swirl. The quarterback situation is an interesting one, but Howie Roseman always makes me nervous because he finds a way to put up these stellar players that how many times we've seen him, particularly the year in which they won the Super Bowl, how they end up picking up a player for large parts of the speculation period where it was a top 15 candidate. They end up picking someone getting really late in the draft. If it's going to strike me, they'll find the goal again, but will it be enough? Will it be a wide receiver? I'm not entirely sure.
Craig, I've been banging this drum, and we were just recording there, or actually on our live stream a little bit earlier this evening, it's Monday evening at time that we're recording, that if everybody's looking at the 2026 draft class as being a bit meh, particularly in the quarterback stakes, and the 2027 is where you want to have your selections, the Eagles and Howie Roseman are famously prone to trading, particularly in the first round. Why wouldn't they trade down or even out of the first round if they don't feel that there's value there for those first round picks, and if other teams feel that there is, and accumulate more capital?
Yeah, absolutely. And all you have to look at is a draft slider, and it's prime real estate really for somebody to move up and take a player that maybe some of the other franchises are just not that hot on. And a lot of the time it doesn't take a lot. I mean, unfortunately, they are in that pick 23 position. That means getting a 2027 first is probably unlikely, but whatever they get can be used as fodder to climb up that draft board if they need to. So it's not out of the realms of possibility. I do look at that number 23 pick and do wonder who will be available. They probably do have the benefit of being able to go best player available if they have to. I do think that they definitely, with one of their day one or day two picks, they need to look at offensive tackle. Lane Johnson is not getting any younger, and it's prime time to just get that ready-made replacement in, especially if, Father Time catches up and he ends up missing a little bit of time due to injury. Caden Proctor could be available, but he's a left tackle, purely played left tackle. So Blake Miller from Clemson, I think he could be a decent right tackle that they might look at. And then wide receiver, they've got Hollywood Brown. I think a lot of people forget that they picked up Hollywood Brown, but this isn't the Hollywood Brown that we're talking about that was with the Ravens all that time ago. Like, he's not really produced over the last few years.
It's more Hollywood County Down than Hollywood, California at this stage. Although let's not disrespect Rory McIlroy's hometown, as he's just accumulated his second green jacket in 2 years.
No, absolutely. So yeah, I think they need to pick up a versatile wide receiver, someone like an Omar Cooper Jr. if he's probably available at the end there. But yeah, it is prime example for someone who could trade down. One thing that I will say is I think that if there's a potential to maybe move up for a draft faller, they could look to move up for a tight end quite easily. I mean, that kind of ticks two boxes there. Dallas Goedert's not getting any younger, and they still need a weapon on the offense. So that might be a sneaky little look for them as well.
Ciaran, I've heard Caden Proctor's name mentioned in connection with a couple of teams now. His stock seems to be rising, and he's on the bubble. And if you know one thing about the Philadelphia Eagles general manager, Howie Roseman, he likes a big beefy lineman from an SEC school. That kind of pick has Howie Roseman written all over it.
Yeah, that's true. And I'm taking Craig's point about Lane Johnson, getting a little longer in the tooth. The more you look at that O-line for the Eagles, though, it's so solid, and those guys are in the 26, 27-year-old range. Those guys might have another 8 to 10 years. I'm not saying they will, but between Dickerson, Mailata, Cam Jurgens, they're on the good side of 30 right now. So maybe an upgrade with the Lane Johnson position. They have needs all over the field, especially on the offense side. People forget how bad this offense was. They averaged just over 19 points the second half of the season last year. I think 10 of their 18 games, they didn't go above 19 points. We all saw the issues with Petulo. Saquon wasn't the same. We all know the Hurts, what's going on with Hurts, and is Brown going to go? I'm tending towards, if we remember a couple of years ago when they got smoked by the Buccaneers, what did Roseman do? He went out and got some of the best defensive players in the draft. Carter was picked up, and you had Quinion Mitchell and DeJean, and it just transformed that back four overnight. Is he going to do a similar trick with the offense and flip it a little bit? And I'm not saying Hurts is going to go, because, like we've already talked about, they'll be waiting until 27 when the kind of gilt-edged quarterbacks start coming out.
So they've brought Andy Dalton into the building, right? So if you had any sense that the Eagles might have their eye on a quarterback prospect, pick somebody up and let them develop a year before then getting rid of Hurts, that's clearly not happening this year. They seem to have the same view of the 2026 quarterback draft class as you do.
Right, and we're going to have a much clearer view of what the Hurts scenario is about 6-7 months time in Philadelphia, because all signs are trending downwards. If we're in reality, they got a new offensive coordinator now with Sean Mannion. How's he going to gel with Hurts? Is Hurts going to just stick to his same script and say,
I'm going to say not well.
Well, it's. And one thing we love about the NFL, and especially with the Eagles, is turmoil is a beautiful thing in the city of brotherly love, because it's endless content. So, new coordinator coming in. Petulo got lost in the sauce in Philadelphia. Poor guy got ran out of town. Mannion comes in, maybe a slightly better resume with the work he did with Seattle, but still, you pretty much the same weapons there. I just think that they're going to go for somebody like a Brazil. Big, tall, like 6'4" wide receiver, Boston. I just think Roseman's going to look at that, how well he did. Roseman probably gets into the office every day and puts his feet up and says, man, I just kill every draft. But he's just probably going to look in and see how well he did it with the defensive unit in 24. And be like, you know what? I'm going to weave the magic. I'm going to pull in a couple of tight ends. At 23, there's still a lot of great players there. And who's to say? With I think it's 9 total picks, 8 or 9 picks they have. They have the capital to move around. Maybe they go up and toss a couple of second and third rounders, as well as the 23rd pick, and move further on up and get some of those, higher end, quote unquote, higher end offensive players. So a lot to look at in Philadelphia, but the main, they've got to address the offense and how putrid it was. Scoring 19 points or fewer 9 times, including the playoffs. Jalen Hurts only exceeded 200 passing yards in 10 of the 17 games. So there's a huge issue there. And like I said, we'll know more in about 6-7 months where the lay of the land is in Philadelphia. But it's going to get ugly. And if it gets better, we'll have to wait and see. But I think they're going to go heavy on offense just in the first couple of rounds, and then patch up those needs that everyone else has: edge, corner, linebacker. So fun times in Philadelphia. I'm looking forward to see what they do.
It's fun times in Dallas as well, or in Frisco, Texas, technically, Craig, for the Cowboys, who have 2 first-round selections, who have an offense that fired on pretty much all cylinders last year, and every free agent they brought in absolutely hit. You would think they're going to lean heavily into trying to fix the defense, which they themselves broke.
Yeah, it's like a polar opposite day from the Eagles to the Cowboys, really, isn't it? I've got a cornerback as their top needs. They have Deron Bland, Siobhan Revel Jr. and Kobe Durant as their penciled-in starters. 2 of those 3 have struggled with injuries in recent years. So you look at that number 12 pick. If Mansour Delane drops outside that top 10, I think they probably take that. Or if they decide that they want to carry on that injury train and try and take a flyer, Colton Hood, who looked like the best cornerback in football in 2024 and missed the entire 2025 season, but potentially on track. So, do your due diligence there, and there's a man. Linebacker's another one. They tried to get Nakobe Dean. They tried to get Key Walker. They tried to get Devin Lloyd in free agency. They struck out on all of them. They could take a flyer on CJ Allen or Jacob Rodriguez with that 20 pick that they've picked up from the Packers. Maybe they drop down a few spots, pick up a second and still get their guy. They don't have a second rounder this year, so that could be a little nice drop for them. And then edge. You know, they wanted to be part of the Max Crosby trade. Who says that they don't go and do that? Jerry Jones does fun things. I've seen somebody tout the number 3 pick that the Cardinals have for an Arvell Reese there. Jerry Jones does Jerry Jones things.
Yeah, imagine Ciaran Boyle using 2 first-round picks to get a game-changing edge player that you accumulated by trading your game-changing edge rusher. That would be the most Jerry Jones thing of all.
That's what Jerry does. Keeps it interesting. Yeah, I mean, I would agree with Craig. I think corners are big, basically anywhere in the defense. I mean, they were awful last year. Great to watch on offense, but they gave up 377 yards per game. And I mean, it was ugly. It was really ugly. Quinnen Williams, when he came in, he landed a little bit of respectability in the later weeks of the season. But I mean, there's holes all over the place. Like Craig said, you can't really rely on Deron Bland. And there's a boatload of corners in this draft. They're picking at 12. If they really want a corner, they're going to get. Delane might still be there. McCoy out of Tennessee. McNeil Warren, the guy from Toledo, who's not been talked about as much because it's a smaller school, same school as Quinyon Mitchell. But yeah, I mean, it was so ugly on defense. 30th in total D, passing D was 32nd in the league. Last in points allowed per game, 29th in the red zone defense. It's got to be defense, and I got to think with the 20th pick, they're going to move downwards. They're going to have to do something with that. It's a lot of teams are going to come looking for that 20th pick. Think about the teams that are not in the first round, like the Jags. They'll be looking at that 20th pick and tossing some things the Cowboys' way. But it's Jerry. He'll want to have his face, and he'll want to have that star logo as much as possible on Thursday and Friday night. So I would expect him to do something with that 20th pick. But it's all about defense. I mean, people forget how good Dak was last year. I mean, Dak kept that team alive last year. I mean, what he did, thrown for 4,500 yards, 30 touchdowns, only 10 picks. And because the defense was so bad and the Cowboys were so bad, his story gets lost. So I'd like to see them add a piece on running back maybe.
Might have been the perfect Dak year, and he didn't have to go to the playoffs and embarrass himself where you forget that he can't actually deliver on the big stage.
Yeah, well, he did deliver. I mean, he had some stuff going on during the Super Bowl week with personal life, but that's not really the headlines he wanted to grab. But I mean, I would expect Jerry to do some work on whether it's running back or tight end to help out Ferguson. I mean, the running back room it's not exactly stellar. Was it Jaden Blue, Williams, the starter, Javonte Williams and Jaden Blue in there. They're going to have to need some. They're going to have to get some help with that. And CD missing a couple of games last year was able to get bailed out by Pickens. So the offense is. Dak kept that offense rolling and he kept it entertaining and watchable, but the defense is just a mess. They're going to have to do new defensive coordinator, going to do a lot of work in there and patch that team together again.
Brian, the most disappointing thing that Jerry Jones could do with those 2 first-round picks is pick where they are, right? But that's not what any of us want to see. Like, it's either what Craig said, let's package up 20 and 12 and take Jeremiah Love, or trade back from the 20th and try and do something clever, but don't just stay where you are. That will ruin my fun. I don't want that at half.
Well, that's because you want exciting times at 2:30 in the morning when we're live in the Arlington.
Sure, I'll have you there, Brian. How could my time?
And Craig will be there as well. No, they should stay.
That's a given. I thought you probably needed more buoying up.
I think they should stay there, Conor, and do the right thing, which is select defensive players. And you tongue in cheek, like you wonder what the defensive coordinator Christian Parker's coming in from the Eagles, and I know like Matt Eberflus is not really well. I should say he's not well respected by Chicago Bears fans, Conor, but a part of me kind of feels a little bit sorry for him, because you imagine last offseason he would have schemed.
I do feel sorry for him, even as a Bears fan. I think, like, if you compare his year with Dennis Allen's year, and Dennis Allen comes in having lost his head coaching job, takes the DC job at Chicago, which Matt Eberflus, as a head coach, he was a great defensive coordinator in Chicago. He did well there. You go to Dallas, you would have planned your whole season around having Micah Parsons available, and lo and behold, your best defensive player was traded, and surprise, surprise, your defense sucks, and it's all your fault.
Yeah, and he was the odd man out in the end, which was inevitable as the season transpired. You would think now, having brought in a young up-and-coming defensive coordinator, and they brought him in within the division, which is another interesting dynamic to the fact that they've actually snatched one of the Cowboys' leading coaches in the background. It'd be interesting to see him coming in, I would imagine some kind of reassurance would have been given to him that come the draft time or in free agency, because it's interesting. Craig has rightly called out, they were in heavy on 3 linebackers and couldn't establish one of those deals whatsoever. So it makes you think, what was it? Don't shop hungry come draft time, but it feels like they will, in particular on the defense, and maybe they will make that marquee move up. But the better for me situation would be if you're going to go defense heavy, take 2 really stellar defense between 12 and 20 and give this new defensive coordinator an opportunity, because if you put good steps in place defensively, we know they can do it offensively. They have got players. Yeah, they're probably a little bit light in the running game. Probably Williams overachieved, having come in from Denver. Not many people expected him to play as well as he did last year. But they have some good attributes offense. I think defensively, they get it right, they'll be back challenging for a division. But Jerry tends to do silly things. But it doesn't necessarily be Jerry anymore. It's just Stephen Jones seems to be more heavily involved in terms of some of the selections. So maybe it will be a boring night for Cowboys. They should walk away with 2 good players.
He certainly earned that slot on merit based on being Jerry Jones' son. So, who knows what he's capable of.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states. Did you know Fast Growing Trees is America's largest and most trusted online nursery with thousands of trees and plants and over 2 million happy customers? Whether you're planting fruit trees, adding privacy, brightening things up with flowers, or bringing in houseplants, Fast Growing Trees has it all. Even better, they can help you find options that are right for your climate, your space, and lifestyle. Click Order Grow. Every plant arrives healthy with the Alive and Thrive guarantee straight to your door. So if you're ready to get planting, this is the moment. Right now, they have great deals on spring planting essentials, up to half off on select plants. And listeners to our show get 20% off their first purchase when using the code WWO at checkout. That's an additional 20% off. Better plants and better growing at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code WWO at checkout. Fastgrowingtrees.com, code WWO. Now's the perfect time to plant. Let's grow together. Use WWO to save today. Offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions apply. Go to growingfasttrees.com for details.
Spring is packed patios, parties, wedding weekends, and RK Zero Proof keeps you in the mix without the morning after regret. As the original Zero Proof Spirits brand, RK's Warm Molecule gives you that real deal burn of whiskey or tequila with none of the alcohol. 0 calories, 0 sugar, and a whole lot of freedom to enjoy the moment. Sip smarter this season at rkzeroproof.com.
Ciaran Boyle, Commanders pick at 7. A lot of things they can do, but a lot of things they need to do after falling off a cliff last year, going from the NFC Conference Championship game to missing the playoffs.
They need to stay healthy. That's the first thing they got to do. They got to keep Daniels upright. Yeah, let's see what they do. I mean, that 24 season seems a long way away now. All those fortunate wins, shall I say, that they had that kept that season afloat. I mean, it was a horrible scene last year. Was it the first team since the 2002 Cardinals to lose 4 consecutive games by 21 or more points? I mean, they were unwatchable last year. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. I mean, where do you start? I mean, starts and ends with Daniels, really, and he's unable to stay in the field. And you got to think Dan Quinn is under a lot of pressure this year. So it's a big year.
They fired both their coordinators, right? So, it's write 2 letters time. You've the other guys first. Now you're writing a letter of resignation.
I think Cliff jumped before he was pushed, and he probably fancied the sunshine in LA a little bit more than suburban Washington. So who knows what really went on there, but that's another story. But you're right. New coordinators and Peters is going to, I mean, with all the new ownership groups in Washington, Peters has got a big job on his hand. They only have 6 picks. And the big talk now is with the 7th pick that they have, are they going to trade backwards and get a little bit more extra draft capital? Because they have a lot of needs. You look around the roster that's constructed right now. Offense, it looks a little lightweight. Defense looks nice. They did some nice additions in free agency. OA and Daron Payne, Kinlaw, picking up my boy Clavon Chasen from the Pats. But you look at the wide receiver room is anemic. I mean, after Terry McLaurin, you've got Tennessee Titans superstar Van Jefferson and Giammi Brown.
Traylon Burks.
Chigakonkwo.
He starts games.
Yeah, I know. Chigakonkwo, who's a little bit better than average, but I mean, and then you throw in Jerome Ford at running back. So the offense is like, I mean, they're good, but I mean, they're like 7-9 or 7-10 good. You know, it's not exciting me. It's another year for a lot of these defensive players. I mean, Frankie Louvu's back. You know, the secondary is in dire need of help. I mean, you forget, similar to how we forgot how good Dak was last year, you forget how god-awful the Washington secondary was in 2024. I mean, they were second last in the league, and they still were one game away from the Super Bowl. So they've limped through with that secondary. But they picked up some nice pieces. They picked up Ahkello Witherspoon from the Rams. They got Robertson from the Lions. So they've added some pieces. But again, with this draft that's front-loaded, this top 15, 20, there's probably going to be about 5 corners that are taken in the top 15, top 20. So it's a kind of a conundrum for them. What do? Do they go for the best player available at 7 and just say, all right, we got him, now let's add some pieces? Or do they move back and maybe get 8 or 9 picks, giving up that 7th pick? So a lot of questions. There's holes everywhere. I mean, the whole roster looks short of quality, shall we say. I'm not going to disparage players like, you know, Traylon Burks or Okonkwo, or, you know, they did pick up good players like Leo Chanel as well, but it just seems, you know, it doesn't look like there's a lot of depth on that team. You take away those names and it's looking pretty thin. I mean, they did rely on those veteran free agencies in 24, and most of them are gone now. So Zach Ertz has been gently nudged out the door. And I mean, dead last in total defense last year. It's got to be all pointing towards corner, linebacker, maybe some help up front. I think they run the 3-4, so edge is definitely a spot they'll be looking at. But it's a big year in Washington. I mean, is Daniels going to reclaim that kind of special skill he had in 24? Will the injuries hamper him this early in his career? So a lot of questions in Washington. But I would expect, I mean, you know, if you ask me what they're going to do, I think they're going to move back. I think with only 6 picks, they're going to have to use that pick and drop back a little bit and get some more picks.
And it's not just, Brian, that they've only 6 picks. They've no pick in the 2nd round. They've no pick in the 4th round. They've 2 in the 6th round and 1 in the 7th round. So they don't have a lot of high value draft capital to expend here.
It kind of sounds like they're in a really bad, drastic situation, doesn't it? Kind of like, is it a mismanagement of a GM that's only there a couple of years ago that they went, I wouldn't say they went in heavy on free agency last year off the back of a season, but we did say, having played in that NFC Championship game, they did really well. It was a wonderful story in that playoff run.
In a weird and bizarre way, considering it was Jaden Daniels' rookie season, it's like they were all in, and their roster just got old overnight. They had a lot of, like, and it was a smart thing to do, right? It was the right thing to do. You needed a core of veteran players to make sure that you could ease Jaden Daniels in, but he took off almost too quickly for them. They massively exceeded expectations, and now they've created a bit of an expectation gap for themselves.
Yeah, and I remember when we did our NFC preview for the recent season, I remember Ciaran rightly calling out, yeah, they feel like they've gone all in, but they actually upgraded in certain positions, because what they brought in by and large wasn't any better than what they had. It was they had a fairy tale run. They felt they probably were a little bit ahead of the curve, and they felt they could go in again. It was just never transpired. It didn't help that the quarterback essentially was missing for half the season. I also don't think the Scary Terry contract debacle going into the season helped, because he wasn't there for large parts of the camp, and then he was injured continuously. I understand the nature why you would suggest they'll move back, because they're limited to picks. But everybody knows as well they're limited to picks, so they're going to be a little bit more desperate to take a deal. I think if Tate falls to him at 7, the wide receiver from Ohio, I think they will go in with him, because I think they do need to complement McLaurin. You called out all the wide receivers that are on the roster, and none of them are out, maybe with the exception of McLaurin, are a step above other players. So Deebo Samuel hasn't even come back to show us how limited he was with the time there. I think if he's wide receivers there at 7, I think they'd be tempted by that and try to give Jaden Daniels another player. But maybe it's not necessarily the fact that they got to give him another player. They got to keep him upright, and maybe an offensive tackle at 7 would be the smarter move to keep him upright, because he was struggling time and time again last year. And what happens if we're week 3, week 4, and he goes down again? It doesn't matter if you have a new wide receiver there. There's no one to throw him the ball. Mariota back there again as the backup this year. I can't recall if he went back there, but doesn't strike me as a quarterback that's going to do a lot in the long term.
Craig, a lot of the mock drafts have the Commanders taking an edge rusher. David Bailey is one name that's been mentioned. They've also been linked with Reuben Bain potentially, depending on which of those players is available. That seems where the smart money is going, but is that smart?
Yeah, I think that they've just got so many holes that it's easy to just look at who's there and who might make an instant impact for them. It just feels like the noise inside the Commanders building is very different from the noise from the beat writers and from the sort of fans of Washington, because you look at everything around this draft that people were pointing them towards, and they've fallen in love with Jeremiah Love. And it makes not a lot of sense for the Commanders to take Jeremiah Love at that position when they have so many different holes everywhere else. I understand what he is as a prospect, but it just doesn't feel like the right fit to me. I like the idea of the wide receiver help, especially if Carnell Tate's there. I think they could also be the sort of team who would take a flyer on Mekhi Lemon quite early, probably earlier than most other people can. But it's weird because I look at edge and I look at obviously what I'm looking at there with wide receiver. They also need linebacker help, but there's something that keeps drawing me towards Caleb Downs ending up at the Commanders because of the fact that they need that versatile young player who can anchor the defense for a few years. And I think that, there's a lot of people who are saying that Caleb Downs is the clear best player available in this draft. And it just makes sense for him to be picked up there for the Commanders to build their defense around him going forward. And it just would not surprise me if that ends up being the pick.
All right, we move on, Craig, to your New York Giants. And because you're representing for the team and wearing your Giants hoodie, you can have the first crack at telling us how the Giants are going to use this draft to lift the Lombardi.
Oh, God. Talk about a team who has holes all over the place and needs multiple first-round picks. Pick 5 is such a premium position, and I've just got nightmares from previous drafts where we've tried to take players at this position and it just hasn't worked out. You get flashbacks to the Saquon Barkley year, and a lot of people are terrified at the fact of the Giants taking Jeremiah Love at pick 5 because of the Barkley effect. But I think there's a big difference when the offensive line now is competent and not Eric Flowers, Jerry, Brett Jones, Hernandez, and Solder. It's a lot better than that. And also we have the quarterback that is a rookie ascending quarterback, not Eli towards the end of him being Eli. Like, I think this is a very different prospect, which is why I think I can find it a little bit more palatable to have Love there. You've then got Sonny Styles, who would be a massive upgrade on Micah McFadden next to Tremaine Edmonds. You've got Caleb Downs, who would instantly be an upgrade on Javon Holland and Tyler Nubin. You've got Carnell Tate, who would help the neighbours conundrum of whether he's going to be ready. You could argue cases for cornerback of Delane. Like, take your pick. It's an absolute smorgasbord of Giants here that you could go for, like, any which way. And I'm still struggling to try and figure out what to do. And there's still a little bit of me that thinks trade back and pick up a third and a potential another first, because there are teams out there who are going to be hungry for this pick.
And I can see the logic in doing that, Ciaran Boyle, if that's what you wanted to do. But it's the start of the John Harbaugh era, and a lot of people are looking to the Giants. The fan base are looking to the Giants to make a statement with this pick.
Yes, and the Giants have always picked fairly high in the last 10 years, but this year feels different. I think it might be the quality of the players that are available and the positions that they need. I've said I'd be fine with any of Downs, Reese, Styles, Love. I'd be fine with any of those. I'm not going to nitpick any of those picks. Harbaugh says, pick the best available player. I gotta think though they're going to lean towards Styles. I mean, he blew that last week of February with the combine. Sonny Styles owned that combine. I was taking videos and stills and sending in the group chat. I mean, you got to watch to believe the fluidity of motion. I mean, it's amazing to see him a huge guy with that frame just gliding across the field, no kind of jerk.
That vertical seemed to send the hearts a fluttering. Like anybody I heard talking about it who witnessed that and had a front row seat for that, they were like, "Oh my goodness!"
Yeah, I know, and I mean, he literally owned the entire combine. The linebacker crew was the class of the combine, but he was head and shoulders above everybody. So I have to think that, and as we get closer to the draft, it looks more and more like that's where they're headed to. And it's a huge need for the Giants. I mean, I know we picked up Edmonds, but I mean, Micah McFadden, a little lightweight for a linebacker, so they desperately need help. It was a huge, huge issue last year, especially when McFadden went down. But I think that's probably the main need for the Giants right now. And I think they're going to, I can see them doing that. Saying that, however, I mean, if they decide to go Love at 5, I would not be against it. I think that would, ignite the fan base, and it would be a hugely positive move for fans. I think they would love it.
I'm going to name your combo, your backfield combo. If they go for Love, it'll be Love Scat.
Love Scat. Love Scat. No one will get that old Cure reference except me and you, Gunner. But I mean, I'm not sure if that'll happen. They got Pat Ricard. I mean, if you've seen pictures of Ricard and Scatabo working out, I mean, geez, that's a hell of a backfield right there in itself. I mean, they could pick up a running back down the line So I would love to get Love, but again, like Craig said, it's not a massive need. I think Styles, if he's there at 5, which he probably will be, the way things are falling right now, it's got to be the pick. The linebacker core is in dire need of help. And again, there's also chatter about Thibodeau getting moved along, so that might open up a couple of draft picks as well. I mean, a defense that was absolutely abysmal last year. I mean, everyone's just ran up and down this team. So I have to think Styles.
Brian, premium pick. The logic is you make that pay with a premium position, which suggests edge rusher, wide receiver, or one of those needs are addressed at this level.
Yeah, but if you look at the trends of John Harbaugh in his time in Baltimore with Eric DeCosta, he tends to always look to find the safety, the linebacker. That seems to be a position of, you say a premium pick, but it seems to be a very valuable pick for Baltimore. And it's a very successful trend in which they've done over the course of the last few years in terms of bringing in players there, which makes you kind of think that's in which the area they will go to. Another wrinkle, John Harbaugh discusses smash mouth football. We've seen it in Baltimore. They brought in Derrick Henry, probably at the back end of his career, for that type of play, which it strikes you to think, it leads you to think, then it would be Love if he's there. I think ultimately, Conor, it's going to come down to what Tennessee do it for. I know we've already done our AFC South, but Salah's the head coach there. I think he'll be desperate to get a Sonny Styles in or Downs, and then that may lead to the Giants taking Love because Styles is not there. My gut says they will take Sonny Styles as well. I think he will. He said as well very early on in the process that the Giants couldn't stop the run last year. Well, if Sonny Styles come in, you would imagine he's one of the key players there that can help correct that issue. Second round, because again, let's not forget they're picking very early in the second round again. I know Craig's alluded to the offensive line being in a much more solidified position now than they were back in the day when Saquon Barkley was selected, but I do think they need help there. I think offensive line in the second round. If they get who they want defensively at 5, the offensive line has to be the selection in the second round. There's no third round pick this year, Conor, so I think once you hit fourth round, it's best player available. I think it's going to be a very interesting one. It's going to be an exciting moment come draft night as to what the Giants will do, because I'd love to see Love there, but I want to take away the emotional aspect as a fan and realise that the most practical thing to do, bearing in mind how bad this defense was last year, was to take Sonny Styles at 5.
All right, well, boxing fans will tell you that Styles make fights. Will the Giants win the fight to get Styles? We shall see in 10 days' time.
Spring is calling, weddings, patio sessions, barbecues, and you want that drink vibe without sacrificing tomorrow. That's RK Zero Proof. As the world's first zero proof spirits brand, RK created the warm molecule, giving you the smooth kick of whiskey or tequila with zero alcohol, 0 calories, 0 sugar, and all the peace of mind you need to enjoy every moment. Step into the zero proof season at rkzeroproof.com.